All right, so you guys know how I like to rewind time. We're going to rewind time a little bit to begin today's video, but it's not going to be too far. We're just going to go back about 16 months. So back to June 16th, 2023. The reason that date is important is because that was the release date for Pokemon 151 over in Japan. Then it came out in like South Korea, Chinese, I believe, and then eventually made its way to the States. I think September-ish, middle of September 2023 was the release of Scarlet and Violet 151 in the United States. I did check with distribution yesterday. Unfortunately, there is no restock announced yet for Scarlet and Violet 151 at all. So unfortunately, we talked a little bit about Scarlet and Violet 151 last week and how prices are going absolutely nuts, and still no restock officially announced as of yet. Now, that doesn't mean it's not coming, but as of right now, nothing. But we're going to talk about Pokemon 151 because some of those cards have also started climbing a little bit in sealed product, especially booster boxes have started climbing. It has been an absolute roller coaster for Pokemon 151, probably more so than Scarlet and Violet 151. Pokemon 151 has been nuts. I remember coming home from Card Party last year, the first Card Party in Anaheim. It was an absolute blast, talking to different people, trying to find the best possible deal that I could find on Pokemon 151 booster boxes, and they were already selling pre-order for $100, which if you don't follow Japanese Pokemon cards too closely, that's almost 3 times, that's a little bit more, 3 times than MSRP. But the whole distribution process in Japan is very difficult to outsource to overseas, to the United States, things like that. So it's understandable. The demand was just absolutely nuts for Pokemon 151. It kept climbing and climbing and climbing, and then like a year after is when it finally collapsed back down to earth after there was a ton of reprints that came. And at one point in time, a few months ago, Pokemon 151 booster boxes were actually selling for like $50. You could find them for $50 with shrink, a little bit less than that if you were okay with not having any shrink wrap on it. It was all over the place. There was tons of reprints that really shook the market, and then it started climbing and climbing and climbing, and now it's back up to close to that $100 mark. So it's closing in on that $100 mark. It continues to rise a little bit more. Now, we don't know yet if more is going to come. It is important to remember that this is, 16 months since the release. The reprint window is a little bit different in Japan than it is in English, right? Usually you look at about a year and a half. Typically after a year and a half of a set's release, they don't reprint it. But I wouldn't be surprised if we got a large reprint of Scarlet and Violet 151 at some point in time, or a restock of 151, and maybe some more in Japan. They're talking about maybe end of November, there might be some more Pokemon 151 that hits the market, which would bring booster boxes down in price. But we are getting to that point in time where they're going to start focusing on just reprinting other Scarlet and Violet era sets that may be released after Pokemon 151. So it is starting, the gap is starting to close a little bit. Now, it is also important to look at other booster boxes that have followed similar patterns in the past, like Eevee Heroes, for example, or Evolving Skies in the United States. The Eevee Hero set over in Japan at one point in time was like $500 a booster box, and now it's shrunk back down to about $350 you can find it for, just because there was so much supply that just was unsold. And now that it moves, it's not as liquid as it used to be because there's not as much excitement. It has fallen back down a little bit, so that's also something to keep in mind. But $350 is still a lot for a booster box. So we're going to talk about Pokemon 151 right now. I don't know how this all ties together, but we're going to talk about Pokemon 151 because there are some cards, specifically the special art rares, the SARs, and the Master Balls, which are moving a little bit in Japan. Some of them moving up a little bit, some of them moving down a little bit. And the great thing about booster boxes in Japan is you do have a guarantee hit rate. You do have a guarantee of at least a secret rare in every single booster box. Now, the caveat is a secret rare in Japan is, even though it's technically the same, basically a full art or higher in Japan. So I'm going to flip you guys around so I can stop rambling and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. First of all, first and foremost, this is going to shake up the market a little bit. All the data that we pulled today, so when we click on this tab up here, all the data that we pulled is from pokedata.io, which does a great job of tracking. If you're not signed up on pokedata.io, you can create a free account. You can track all of the spend, all of the card prices, all of your Japanese cards, your English cards, everything. It goes off of eBay prices for sold listings, completed auctions, graded cards, raw. It doesn't really matter. Pokedata.io is a great resource for that. This is going to shake up the market because TCGplayer has now officially officially started selling Japanese cards. So you can go to this Pokemon tab right up here, and you've got all Japanese sets listed on this side. Now, they don't have it really figured out with the advanced filtering yet, but if you go and you just click on latest Japanese sets, we can scroll down to 151, and we can look at all of the different 151 products that are already available on TCG Player. And this is going to change the market, because just looking at some of these prices, they are already significantly different than what you're seeing on eBay, which is really an important thing. So definitely another resource that you can use. This is good. This is a good thing because it gives you the opportunity to hopefully complete your collection at cheaper rates, because you have another outlet, another resource to use. If you type in Masterball Pattern at the top, this is going to show us all the Master Balls in Pokemon 151, and you will notice, if you pause it here and study and memorize every single pricing, even though there's not images for everything yet, you will notice there is going to be differences on this compared to the chart that we're looking at. Not a lot of differences, but some differences, which is really interesting. If we look at the price from high to low, this has Pikachu as the highest Master Ball Pattern right now. That's not the case on eBay. eBay has a different price point. Actually has Gengar as number 1. So very interesting to look at. This is going to change things a little bit, but the good thing about this is it gets these listings away from the English side of things, so that way it doesn't clog up. The market price doesn't get messed up with Japanese cards. It doesn't clog up the first and second page of the search results. So this is a really good thing to kind of clean up TCG Player for people who utilize that website as a way to kind of add to their collection. Obviously a good platform for a lot of different sellers, but when it gets all clogged up, it gets confusing, and mistakes happen all the time. So this is just another outlet that you can look to if you are looking to complete Pokemon 151 and you've been going to eBay all the time. Well, now you have an additional resource that you can go to. We're going to go through all the cards in Pokemon 151 at lightning speed. I'm gonna do my rapidash speed and go as fast. That was really corny. Go as fast as I can to get through this, because I know your time is important to you. But right now, this has Pikachu sold listing last one at $139. So Pikachu has fallen quite a bit. This is no longer the most expensive Master Ball. Gengar has actually passed it off. Now, that could be just a couple of sales that kind of brought that price down a little bit on eBay. It wouldn't surprise me if it went back up a little bit more. Pikachu is probably going to be the most expensive Master Ball. The big thing is, Master Balls are going to be in demand for quite some time, and this data is not even including the normal regular reverse holos that you can get. Reverse holos also doing really well in Pokemon 151, and Pokemon 151 is going to be a set that gets collected for a very, very long time. A lot of people are going to want to master Pokemon 151, and now that Costco is releasing those tins, right? Those tins that have the additional promo card, the additional rarity printing to add to a master set, it just gets nuts. And this is going to be a set that a lot of people down the road, when they come back into Pokemon, or where they come into Pokemon down the road, they might be like, okay, I want to master 151. That would be a really fun set. So this is going to be in demand for a very long time, which is why a lot of people collect Pokemon 151 currently. But the Master Ball caveat, the fact that it didn't come to Scarlet and Violet 151, can you imagine how expensive Scarlet and Violet 151 would be right now, especially for seal product? If the Master Ball gimmick was included in the English set, it would be absolutely nuts. But anyways, we're going to go through these relatively quickly. The Pikachu selling for about $139. Then you've got the Erica's Invitation. The Gengar is actually at the bottom of this list. $46 for the Erica's Invitation. Mewtwo currently selling for about $37. Haunter's at $29. Eevee's at $35. Dragonite is at $55. Then you've got a bunch of them right here in the $30 and $20 range. So like $30 for Flareon, $31 for Psyduck, $24 for Slowpoke. Jolteon's at $23. Charmander's at $27. The starters, the baby starters, first stage starters, those all do pretty well. Mr. Mime only selling for about $9 right now. The Magikarp's a little bit higher. That one's at $29. And then you've got a bunch in the low teens, like Kabutops, Machoke at $11. Dratini's sitting there at $22. Growlithe at $19. You've got $13 on the Slowbro. The Articuno currently selling for $14. A lot of these have moved a little bit. Most of them have come either down or up by $1 or $2, but that really does add up with the amount of Master Balls that are in the set. Obviously, there's going to be quite a few of them, because there is a Master Ball printing for every single regular card that's in the set. That's not an ultra rare. So there are a lot of cards that you can collect if you are going to try and master the entire set. You've got Hypno over here at $13. That one's gone up a little bit. If we go over to the other side here, Safety Goggles at $9, and the male Nidoran at $12, and the female Nidoran at $15. Here's the Magmar right here at $11. Here's the Gengar currently selling for about $175. So that right now, based off the information information on pokedata.io, is the most expensive Master Ball. Now, again, this could flip-flop fairly quickly with Pikachu having a little bit more sales, but it'll be very interesting to see how things go on TCGplayer. You might be able to find a lot of these for significantly cheaper on TCGplayer because TCGplayer is going to open the door for a lot of additional sellers, a lot of additional sales, which could impact the market quite a bit. Leftovers for $7. You've got the Pidgeotto for $10, Magneton for $10. For the most part, a lot of these are selling for $9, $10, $11, $12, $13, somewhere around that area. You do have some of them that are selling for $20, $30, and even a little bit more than that, but for the most part, everything is barely in the double digits, selling for $10 or maybe just a couple dollars more than that. So it is still very expensive to master Pokemon 151 because you do have all these cards. They add up quite a bit, but for the most part, at least, a lot of them have come back down to earth. Like I said, for the most part, they've been relatively flat, so staying relatively flat. If we look at the secret rares, and there's a lot of them in Pokemon 151, because, well, like I said at the beginning of the video, this is counting all of the full arts on. So you're going to get one secret rare for every box that you open up, and you're going to get one Masterball Pattern for every box that you open up. That's kind of guaranteed. You could get more than one. Like, I've seen many booster boxes opened up where you've gotten multiple secret rares. Maybe you got an SAR and a full art trainer, or maybe you got a full art Pokemon and a full art trainer, or maybe I've seen a couple boxes opened up where you got like 3 Master Balls in it. So it is possible to happen, but you're guaranteed basically to get one, which is nice. But the pull rates are much more guaranteed in Japan than they are in English. Some people really enjoy that. Some people don't like that much because they like the opportunity of maybe opening a box that is busted and has a little bit more bang for their buck, rather than having kind of that guarantee where it's like every single box that you open up is going to have 4 regular arts, 3 art rares, 1 secret rare, and 1 Master Ball. And obviously the Master Balls were only printed in Pokemon 151. That wasn't a gimmick that they continued in other sets. So having that guarantee of a certain amount of ultra rares, some people are a big fan of that, some people aren't. But if you look at the secret rares right here, for the most part, relatively flat. The Venusaur EX sitting there at $7. Charizard EX has gone up a little bit. That one's currently selling for $15. The Blastoise EX, these are the full arts right here. $5 for that one. Arbok is at $4. Ninetales EX is at $4. Wigglytuff EX is at $5. Alakazam EX is at $6. You've got the Golem EX at $5. Kangaskhan at $5. Jinx at $4. Zapdos at $5. Mew at $7. So for the most part, with the exception of that Charizard, everything's selling for $4, $5, $6, $7. Except for that Charizard, which is selling for about double that, currently selling for about $15. If you look at it in English, obviously the full art Charizard is selling for over $40 right now, so quite a bit more expensive in Scarlet and Violet 151 than what it is in Pokemon 151. If you look at the remaining secret rares, the full art trainer Erica's Invitation currently at $18. Giovanni's Charisma is at $7. Daisy's Care has fallen quite a bit. That one's down to $7. And then you've got the Bills Transfer at $6. The SAR cards have gone up for the most part about 10% from when we looked at this a few months ago. So about 10% across the board for pretty much every single one, with the exception of like the Mew. The Mew has not gone up at all. It's actually gone down a little bit, but the rest of them have all gone up about 10%. Now that's not as much as what we've seen as far as growth pattern goes, like in the English set. Scarlet and Violet 151, obviously much more substantial gains that we've seen, especially over the last month, but that deals a lot more with manipulation than what we're seeing in this. This might be more demand related than everything else, or people understanding that, hey, the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet 151 is going up, it's going nuts. I'm just going to focus on Pokemon 151 instead because those prices are going way too expensive for me, but still seeing some small growth out of a lot of these SARs. So Venusaur EX is up to $42. Charizard EX is currently selling at $93, about half the cost of what it's selling for, and in the English counterpart, Scarlet and Violet 151. Blastoise EX is up to $36, so those are swapped in Scarlet and Violet 151, right? So Blastoise EX is actually cheaper than Venusaur EX in Pokemon 151, as opposed to Scarlet and Violet 151, where the Blastoise EX is substantially more expensive than the Venusaur EX. Alakazam EX still at about $26. This one gone up a little bit, but not a ton. Zapdos EX is up a little bit. That one's at $38. The Mew EX, like I said, is down a little bit, down about 7-8% from the last time we looked at this, sitting at $58 currently. Erica's Invitation, the SAR, is selling for $52. That's still fairly expensive, but way cheaper than where it was when the set released originally. A little over a year ago. Like, you were looking at a card that was well over $100, the most expensive card in the set by far, and now it's dropped significantly. A lot of Japanese cards, a lot of Japanese singles, especially involving those full art trainers, have dropped a huge amount, which is really good to see for a lot of people who really want to collect. Giovanni's Charisma, $13 on that one. You've got the Mew EX Gold card currently selling for $18. That one's actually more expensive in Japan than it is in Scarlet and Violet 151. Switch Gold, also about double the price of what it is in Scarlet and Violet 151. 151. That one's selling for $11. And then the Psychic Energy, the gold one, selling for about 3 times the price in Pokemon 151 than what it is selling for in Scarlet and Violet 151. So that one's doing really, really well. If we look at the art rares right here, those are very interesting because they're all basically tied together. Everything is either $3, $4, $5, $6, or $7, with the exception of a couple that you have for $2. There are no art rares that are selling for more than double digits, and actually none of them selling for more than $7. So you've got 5 on Bulbasaur, 4 on Ivysaur, Charmander's at 6, Charmeleon's at 5, Squirtle's at 6, Wartortle's at 4, Caterpie just a $2 card. Pikachu's the most expensive one, and it's not really most expensive by much. Like, you're only looking at $7 for that Pikachu. Nidoking's at $3, Psyduck is at $4, Poliwhirl's at $4, Machoke at 3, Tangle at 2, Mr. Mime at 2, and Ammonite at 2. Snorlax, that's the promo that we get included in our Elite Trainer box. That one's selling for $3. Dragonair's at $4, and the Mewtwo, which is the promo that we get in the Ultra Premium Collection, that one's at $4 over there. If you look at the regular arts, pretty much everything just $1 or $2, except for the 2 cards that are more expensive in Scarlet and Violet 151 as well. Charizard EX is currently selling for $4, and the Mew EX, also very, very playable. That one is selling for $4 as well. Tournaments in Japan are just built differently. Lots of competitive players over there. Mew EX is obviously going to be a very popular card over there as well for competitive play, which explains why it's selling for a little bit more at $4, or everything else basically bulk pricing $1 or $2. So if we break all this down based off of pull rates and calculate how much you should be spending per booster box of Pokemon 151, we might be at the point now, or getting very close to the point now, where it doesn't make sense to open up Pokemon 151, and it makes a lot more sense just to focus on singles. I know that it's important and a lot of fun to rip Pokemon cards. Like, I get it. That is a lot of fun. This set has been out for 16 months. Maybe it's time to move on to something else. There are a lot of cheaper sets in Japan. For example, Super Electric Breaker, which just came out. That's another option that you could be opening right now for substantially cheaper. If we break everything down, you get 4 regular arts per booster box. The average price point right now for those regular arts is $1.92. Now, obviously, you do have a couple of them that are selling for $4, but that's not really going to make or break things right here. You're only looking at about $7.68 worth of value per booster box, because basically everything's selling for bulk pricing, not selling for that much. Your art rares, you get 3 of them, but the average price point on those, $3.89. Again, like, we saw a few of them selling for $2. We saw a few of them selling for $6, but for the most part, everything was selling for $4, $5. That's why you get about $3.89 as your average price point per rarity. So that means your average value per booster box is just under $12, $11.67. If you look at the secret rares, this one is skewed a little bit, obviously, based off of some of those more expensive SAR cards. You get 1 per box. Average rate, or average price per rarity, is about $18.89, but you do have some of them, that are $4, $5, $6, especially a lot of those full arts. So you could pull, just the full art Golem, which is only going to be worth like $5 or $6, or you could pull that's SAR Charizard, which is worth $93. That's why it's an average for a reason. You're only looking at about $18.89 for your average price point per rarity. That means your average value per booster box is about $18.89. Same thing with the Master Ball. This one is skewed a little bit, but not as badly. For the most part, a lot of the Master Balls you see are $10, $11, $12, $13, somewhere in that price point. So $15.70 for your average price point per rarity. Just because of the sheer amount of Master Balls that they are, that Pikachu and that Gengar don't impact the price point too much. Now, it does impact the price point a little bit here at $15.70, because you could pull something, like the Big Balloon, which is only worth $8, or you could pull something like the Mewtwo, which is worth like $46. So, but for the most part, on average, you're looking at about $15.70 per box. Your best box that you could possibly pull, if you pulled perfectly based off of pull rate data, would be $299. That's assuming you pull the Gengar. That's assuming you pull the special art rare Charizard, your top 3 art rares, and your top 4 double rares, regular art EXs. Your worst box potential, though, $21. Can you imagine going out and spending about $100 on a booster box at Pokemon 151 and pulling $21 in value in return? Like, that would mean you're pulling like the Arbok as your secret rare. You're pulling the cheapest double rares. You're pulling the Ancient Helix Fossil as your Master Ball. It's just really bad feels. $21 on that one. If we add everything together, you're looking at about $53.94 worth of pulls. That's what you're expected to pull out of your booster box. Now, there is some ancillary value, which is the good thing with Pokemon 151, those reverse holos that we didn't talk about. We talked about the Master Ball holos, but the reverse holos, which you get in basically every single pack outside of the pack that's going to have your Master Ball pattern in it, those all add up. So those all have, $1 or $2, $3 value associated with them. You're going to be opening up 20 booster booster packs. 19 of them are going to have a reverse holo as opposed to just the Masterball pattern. So that's going to add up a little bit more difficult to move, not as liquid as the Master Balls would be, but you can still add a value to that. That's going to be about $20. That means on average, your total box value is going to be roughly $73.94. Booster boxes right now going from anywhere to $90 to $100. Since we own a Japanese store now, I was able to put our own Japanese website on here. You can go to kuroseoshop.com. You can get a booster box for $95. However, your fun cost on that, you're still looking at spending about $21.06 or losing about $21.06 as far as value goes. So if you're opening up a booster box of Pokemon 151, hoping to have a little bit of fun, that fun would need to be worth about $21.06 to you in order to make it worthwhile. And that's why we break all this down so you can make the best decision when it comes to spending your collection dollars. So I hope you enjoy the content. If you did, please hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm, but ultimately, thank you just for taking the time to sit here, listen to me talk about Pokemon. I love this stuff, and I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for everything. We'll be back tomorrow with a stream. We'll have another video on Thursday. Next week, it's hard to believe, end of next week, we're already going to get Searching Sparks. It's going to start getting delivered, and then we'll be putting the Fan Clan Master set together, and we'll give that away to one lucky subscriber. So make sure you are subscribed. I'll see you guys later. Love you. Peace.